So I want to tell you a story about my experience in middle school. I was involved in a class where the teacher taught orally. And we had to do different mouth movements to practice speaking, and we'd have to stick our hand on our throat to feel the vibrations, etc. And I kind of just tolerated it. I saw the other students in the classroom doing the same thing, so we'd go every day and do these things. So the teacher herself was hearing, but she was able to sign some. Well, one day, she showed us the sign for Florida, and I watched her, and I was like, oh, okay, this is great. So when it came time to tell a story that we had read from a book, I signed the sign for Florida that the teacher had showed us. Well, I went home, and my mom asked me about my day, and I told her what we had done, and I showed her the new sign that I had learned, Florida. And my mom, when I did the sign, she was like, no, that's not how you sign Florida. Don't do it that way. That's wrong. And I was like, no, it's not wrong. This is what my teacher showed me. And she's like, no, you need to fingerspell the word Florida. And I was like, well, my teacher's smart. This is the way I'm going to do it. And my mom was like, no, that's incorrect. So it turned out that we went to school for a meeting, and my teachers and parents went back and forth arguing about this sign, Florida. And I kind of just sat there and watched, and my parents were trying to explain that that was an English sign, not an ASL sign. And the teacher had said that she'd gotten it from a book, and my parents were trying to explain that you don't learn sign language from a book, but rather from interacting with deaf people and learning from their culture. And he said it wasn't right that the teacher had taught us this sign. So it was kind of at that point that I had realized the big differences between English and ASL. And I can understand both, but suddenly it made sense to me that there are differences between the two, and I do truly prefer ASL. So I was involved in a hearing mainstream school, and I had an interpreter for an English class. And as the interpreter signed, I understood what she was saying, but the concepts kind of went over my head. So when it came time for me to write papers and turn them into my teacher, I would get my grades back, and they were all F's. I was failing the class. And I didn't understand what was going on because I could understand the interpreter, but I was failing these assignments. So we went to an IEP meeting, and my teachers and parents discussed what was going on. And they were concerned that perhaps I was not studying, but I told them that I was doing everything I was supposed to be doing. My dad has this suspicion that perhaps my interpreter was more Englishy. And my parents tried to explain to the teachers that the difference between English and ASL and how the word order and the structure of the sentences is different. And even if you understand English interpreting, it may not help you succeed because of not understanding the concepts and being able to picture what is talked about. So we switched interpreters. I got an ASL interpreter, and suddenly I understood everything clearly. I was able to write papers, and my grades improved to the point where I was getting B's and C's. And some people are scared to ask their interpreters if they're unsure of something, but you need to not be afraid and just be able to ask them questions if you're unsure about something. And everyone is the same in the classrooms. If you have questions, you just need to do it if you don't understand something, and it's important to get an interpreter that matches you. And Chinese people, African Americans, all of these people have different cultures in the same way that ASL does. And I truly did love being mainstreamed and interacting with hearing people. And they're so fascinated by learning sign language, and they want to know what signs are for specific words. So I would tell them. But sometimes it bothered me because they'd ask stupid questions, and I didn't have to tell them if they were right or wrong. But I tried to be encouraging and let them know if they were doing a good job. So the middle school sign language class that I was involved in, I really enjoyed. I learned many good things from the teachers there. And in high school, I had many interpreters. There were about 30 deaf students in my school, so we had a lot of interpreters. And for the most part, I was very satisfied with all the interpreters that I got. There were a few exceptions where the interpreters would sign PSC, and I didn't really prefer that. But for the most part, I was able to understand my interpreters, and I liked them all. And truly, if there were no interpreters, what would the deaf do? Yes, they can go to a deaf school, but I'm not sure how the quality of the education is at deaf schools. And as far as advancement goes, I don't know if I would have been able to advance how I did if I had been in a deaf school. I got a good education from being mainstreamed, and I feel more comfortable and confident about what I'm able to do.